This lecture is about the material in Chapter 1 of Word. First, I want to talk about document properties. If you click on the File tab, you'll see the properties listed here, how large the document is, how many words it has, how many pages it has, when it was last modified, when it was created, who the author is, and there are other properties that you can look at on your own. Normally when I save this, I will be saving this as a .docx file. This is the file format that's used by Word 2007 and Word 2010. But you may want to save this in other formats for people who don't have one of the current versions of Word. So Word 97 to 203, which is .doc, or even .rtf. This is a universal document format that should be readable by any word processor, from the WordPad application that comes with Windows to the TextEdit that comes with the Mac. If you want to make sure that somebody can absolutely read your document, .rtf is the one to pick. Here you have Microsoft Works, and please don't use that file format ever. Even if you use Microsoft Works, try to save it in .rtf or .doc, because only Works will truly read those files. Another option that you have is .pdf. You can save your Word document as a PDF file. That way, once someone downloads your PDF or once they receive it, they're not going to be able to change it unless they have expensive software that allows them to modify PDFs. So your best bet, if you want to send someone a document that they will not modify, is to send it as a PDF. You can save as a web page. This is how I save the web page for the syllabus for the course, is I just create it in Word, save it as a Word document, and then I save it again as a web page. The single file web page includes any graphics or any other objects you might have in the page along in the same file, but then the file is only readable in Internet Explorer. It's not readable in any of the other browsers. And there's a lot of other options here. Open document text for those who are using OpenOffice or LibreOffice. If you want to see how your document might change as you save in the other Word formats, you can check compatibility, and you can see here I have no problems with this document to save it either for someone using Word 2007 or 97 through 2003. I want to talk about keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to tell you what key I'm pressing, and you can see on the screen what the effect of that is. If I press the end key on the keyboard, I go to the end of the line. If I press the home key, I go to the beginning of the line. If I hold down the control key and press end, so control end takes me to the end of the document, and control home takes me to the beginning of the document. The arrow keys take me up and down one line, or left and right one character. If I'm at the beginning of a line and I go left, I go to the end of the previous line, etc. If I hold down the control key and go right, I will go right one word. And then control left goes left one word. Control up goes up one paragraph. Control down goes down one paragraph. When I drag my mouse over a line, and you can tell when I press my mouse button, you'll see the little circle around the cursor turn red. That's called a selection. Sometimes people call it highlighting, but that refers to something different. We'll call this selecting. Notice when I bring my mouse pointer out to the left side of the document that it changes direction. That's because this is called the selection area. So when I click once in the selection area, I will select the line that I'm pointing to. If I double click in the selection area, I will select the paragraph. If I drag in the selection area, I can select more than one line. If I triple click in the selection area, I will select the entire document. You'll notice that you will see little dots between my words. You'll see paragraph symbols, and you'll see some other symbols here shortly. That's because I have the Show Hide button on that shows all of the special characters that are in the document. I like to edit this way, and this is the way that I grade your work, is I can see what you have done to. If you're supposed to tab but you've used spaces, I can see that. If you've inserted tabs where they don't belong, I can see that. So I usually use Word with this turned on. Now let's talk about page breaking. Usually you only want to press the Enter key at the end of a paragraph. You want Word to handle where the lines break. You want Word to handle where the pages break. But suppose I've got this formatting section here and I want all of this to be on the same page. So I'm going to put my mouse cursor at the beginning of the formatting, and I can either go to page layout and choose breaks and do a page break, or I can just hold down the control key and press enter. If you're using a Mac, that would be the command key and enter to produce a page break. And you'll see I have a little line here that indicates that I have put in a manual page break. I'm going to delete that because I'm going to show you a different kind of page break here in a moment. Now let's talk about page numbering. I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and we'll choose Page Number. And then I have options for putting page numbers at the top of the page, the bottom of the page, putting page numbers in the margins, which is not something one should usually do. I can remove the page numbers if I have them in there. I can format the page numbers. We'll look at that in a moment. So let's just put page numbers in the top right-hand corner of the page. Page numbers live in either the header or the footer of the document. The header is text that is repeated at the top of every page. The footer is repeated at the bottom of every page. Right now my footer is blank. The only thing I have in my header is a page number. Maybe I want the name of the document to appear at the top of every page. So once I do that, now you'll see that's going to be at the top of every page. Maybe in the footer I want the date. So I'm going to go to date and time. I'll put in the date. Now there's a checkbox here for update automatically. If I turn that on, then every time I open this document, it's going to pull the current date. So it will change as you open the document. If you just always want it to have the date that when you created this, then you would want to leave that unchecked. Headers and footers are part of what we call the page formatting. It's what each page looks like. If I need to have different formatting on different pages, different headers and footers on different pages, then I may want to have a section break. Sections allow me to have more than one kind of page formatting in a document. So I'll again go to this Breaks menu under the Page Layout tab, and I'll insert a Next Page section break. There's also a continuous section break for having different page formattings within the same page. We'll talk about that in a later chapter. Right now we'll just put a Next Page section break. So that has the same effect as a page break, but now it gives me a different section, so I can have different headers. So a section 2 header, a section 1 header, section 1 footer, section 2 footer. This is particularly useful if you need to have different page numbering in different sections of your document. So the front part of a document numbered with Roman numerals and then page numbering that starts over again with the bulk of your text. So if I select a page number and right click on it, I can format page numbers, say whether I want to start over again or continue my page numbering from a previous section. If I had chapters in here, I could include the chapter number as part of the page number. I could say, oh, I want to start at page 6 in this section. So the page numbering starts at page 6. I'm also saying here that I want my the format of my header to be the same as the previous section, you can also change that in the setup for the section, and I'll let you see how to do that in the hands-on exercises. Different first page if you've got a document. If you're doing a book, you've got it in chapters. Generally, you don't have headers on the first page of a chapter because you've got the big chapter title at the top of the page. If you're printing your document front and back of the page, you'll want to have different headers and footers on odd and even pages, so that, for example, here I've got the page number in the upper right hand corner, but if this were an odd page, it would, well, this is what an odd page would look like. An even page, it would need to be on the left, so it would still be on the outside of the page. Let's talk about the different ways of viewing your document. By default, you're going to view your document in Print Layout View. Let me bring this up here a little bit. Print Layout View. If I can do full screen reading, and this is going to go outside the boundaries of my video, but it fills up the screen, and in the upper right hand corner there I can close this out so that I'm not doing that, not taking up the screen anymore. But that's just if you want to read the document. It shows you 2 pages to read the document. This is what my document looks like as a web page. Sections and headers and footers don't matter in web pages, so you don't see those. The draft view is something from a bygone era that speeds up the display of your document when you have very weak graphics, so it doesn't show any graphics. It shows as simple a layout as possible. You don't see the headers and footers. Any modern computer that you would get now is going to have graphics capability to where you don't need to use the draft view unless you want a distraction-free view of your document. Then there's outline view, and we'll work with outlines in chapter 4, but when you use the heading styles, then all of the text under a heading gets associated with that heading. I can collapse this down so that I'm just seeing the headings. And then if I move this heading down here, then all of the text associated with that heading moved with it. This is helpful in organizing your document, or to go into outline view before you write your paper, lay out what the sections are going to be and even the subsections, and then fill in the text afterwards. It's really helpful for outlining. And then now I'm back in print layout view. Speaking of distraction-free editing, if you right-click up here on the ribbon, you can say minimize the ribbon, and then all you see are the tab names, and the ribbon doesn't show itself unless you click on one of the tab names. And once you click away from it, then you don't see that anymore. But I don't like to minimize the ribbon. I like to keep it up there all the time. One last thing to talk about, and that is watermarks, which is some sort of text or graphic that appears in the background of your document. Usually it's something like confidential or do not copy or draft that reminds the reader how they are to handle the document or how they are to treat the document. You can see it just barely shows in the background. It's going to be a little darker when you print than that, but it is a constant reminder of what the status of the document is or how it's supposed to be handled. You could also get a logo. You could gray out the logo and have it appear in the background for a nice effect if you have a nice logo that works with. And that concludes this lecture.